chess.com, continuing my video series on the correspondence team match played between my video lessons group and the team CARPE DIEM. This game was played on board 40. Our man is Navitsam, and he's playing against Devitoria, mid-1900 versus mid-1800 rating advantage. They split their match. Let's have a look at this one. It's pretty much an even contest most of the way, but there are two key opportunities, or turning points in the game, one taken and one missed, and we will get to those here shortly. And so now we're in an English opening, but suddenly it becomes the King's Indian defense, and main line now black just castles, but black opts for a different unique strategy to fianchetto the light squared bishop. Nothing wrong with that. It's been tested less in tournament play, but get an even opening, go from there. So there's one big difference here. I'll explain it here in a moment when we get there. We're not there yet. This is kind of Queen's Indian style. When black plays the Queen's Indian defense, he's taking over the e4 square. The difference being this dark squared bishop is not fianchettoed. It's usually deployed along this diagonal, usually parked on e7. And here's the turning point I was talking about, where a few things are different than the King's Indian. A lot of times in the King's Indian, black will have this pawn up to e5, and his dark square bishop is blocked in. Here it's a quite active piece. It's controlling this long diagonal, putting a pin on the pawn on b2, and in the King's Indian, this bishop on the light square bishop of black's usually his best piece, and here he's not going to be using it in a kingside attack because black's not setting up that way, and he's saying, if you move your knight, I'm just going to trade this bishop off. So, basically the game is about even. White hasn't demonstrated any kind of an opening advantage. Black hasn't demonstrated other than that he's equalized the position. White has maybe a little bit more boardroom in the center, but black has posted well. So as I say, game stays relatively even. And here, black opts to go for strategic imbalance, doubles up the white pawns at the expense of giving up the bishop pair and parting with his light squared bishop. But still, the bishop he has is on the board is a pretty good one. Let's back it up slightly just so I can cover one more point. It looks like, though, it's something that black has to do. This bishop is going to be kicked eventually by a knight d2. Where's it going to go? Might go to f5, but then black gets some double pawns. Maybe with all this in mind, maybe a different strategy would have been to play queen b3. The point of doing this is that when you play bishop h3, you don't have to accept double pawns, although the double pawns do create a pawn structure imbalance, and it does give white pressure on a half open file, and some of this will be critical in a little bit, as we'll see. But I do believe the game essentially is even. Black has no weakness at all in his position. White just has the two bishops and an open file for his rook, or rooks we should say. Now I'm not too sure about a4. This tends to lock up the queenside pawn structure, take away some possible breaks. Maybe there could be a plan later with a3 and b4, but it's certainly not going to cost white the game. Black gets the square b4, but can he really use it? How do you get a knight there? Well, it's kind of hard. But anyway, let's move forward. As I said, the game stays relatively even. Now there's some pressure on the e file, so black covers e7 ahead of time. And now one of the points of a4 is shown. He wanted to bring the rook into play by way of a3, and at the same time break the pin on that b pawn, which has been there for a few moves now. Okay, so they're triple battery on the open file. Black overprotects f8, and the cost is that his bishop is now deactivated. And here comes the white pawns. Let's drive that knight out. Not too sure queen g4 really does much because black just kicks it back out. But at the same time, the game was relatively even. And black sets up a potential break with b5 of his own. And white rids himself of the extra double pawn. Black creates a pin. And here comes the critical phase of the game where black makes a mistake, and white doesn't whoop, where are we going? It's going so fast. I click it once, it moves twice. Okay, that's what white played, but white had a very fascinating continuation here. It's not the easiest type of tactic to see because we're used to tactics that involve themselves in direct and immediate returns, such make a sacrifice, get a pin, sacrifice, get a fork, set up a skewer, removing the defender type tactics. This is one of the tactics called line opening. There's a book. There's a couple books of chess puzzles. There's Test Your Chess IQ 1 and Test Your Chess IQ 2. These were written over 30 years ago. The author is a Lifshitz, Livschtz. Sorry about that, but that's the way it's spelled. Okay, so he has a bunch of fascinating problems in his collections using the theme line opening. And I believe white has a forced win here. Let's look at it. Okay, the trick is to play g5. Now we start seeing how lines are opening up. Okay, the first line opened up, starting to open up this line here. Okay, so this puts an immediate attack on the two black pieces. So black's reply is pretty much forced. He needs to take this. Now line opening continues, and this puts pressure on the queen. So the queen's got to go somewhere. Let's just park her on c7 and see what happens. Now comes a check. Okay, now if black does nothing, you're going to promote and make a queen here. So you got to grab that. Now comes another check, and suddenly now we're going to see some more lines open. Okay, because all these pawns disappearing out of the center have opened a lot of lines. Now, how are you going to get a check? Well, if you go to g7, you step right into rook g3, and there's a pin on this bishop on g5, and you're going to win it back. So it's a very difficult thing to work out, but I was kind of playing with it for a while and looking at king f8, and now that the trick is to go ahead and play rook g3, and you're still menacing this bishop. Even though there's no pin, you're still menacing that bishop, and there's a threat to win it. So what are you going to do? Okay, well, let's just take the bishop just for the fun of it, okay? Now comes a nice little surprise move, queen h5. And, all these lines that are opening up, remember when the pawn pushed to g5, not only did it open up the diagonal h3 to e6, it opened up the other diagonal. You can see them both. And then the g file is opened up. It's really a nice combination. Now black's sitting here in serious trouble. How do you stop mate? Well, you take the queen, right? Well, you didn't stop this mate. So this was a forced win for white. I don't think black has a defense. Okay, so if you want a good combination book, if your tactics are need sharpening, depending on your playing level, Test Your Chess IQ is more for the beginner player up to about 1700. Test Your Chess IQ 2 is for players up to 2200 beyond. I don't have the first volume, but it's a good book, or they're good books. Okay, let's back this up. So anyway, that's your tactic, line opening. And it finally led to a forced win. And I'm sure there's other variations and there are other defenses, but white's going to come out on top. So let's, as we're backing it up to the correct position here, I guess there's another way I can just click the move order and find it that way. But anyway, let's back it up just to the point of G, where white missed G5. Notice how this diagonal is closed. Okay. Notice how this diagonal is closed. And notice how this file is closed. So by making a sacrifice, and it's not even much of a sacrifice, white can really gain a complete domination of black here. So what's white's threat or black's threat here? Well, to take the rook, right? So it's a natural response. We see our rook is under attack. We need to move it. It's a natural reaction, but it depends on, again, on, we've talked about correspondence chess, how much time you're taking on your moves. If you take enough time, you can come up with these plans. So G5 is a nice active move. Threats, captures, and checks. It makes a threat. And the other key thing to see is how it's opening up lines and allowing these discoveries. So it bears looking at one more time to reinforce it. G5 defends white's rook, right? Take the pawn. Otherwise, you lose a piece. Attack the queen. Queen moves. Moving two pieces at a time. Make a fork. Okay, come on. Move ahead. It's going to lag. There it did. Okay, so check. And I showed if king f8, the rook just goes to g3, menacing the bishop. The bishop takes on c1. There comes queen h5, and it's all over. See? Check. Go back to f8 to avoid the pin. Rook to g3. Attacking the piece twice. Take the bishop. Queen h5. Goodbye black. Okay? So the alternative, instead of going to f8, was to put the king on g7, but as I explained and didn't show, boy, yeah, just going back too fast. Okay, king takes. You click it. It makes you think it didn't click. I guess you click it again, and there only clicked it once, and it made two moves. Please get version 3 out, chess.com, please. Okay, king g7. Well, again, I said that just allows rook g3. Now, bishop takes is not an option, and black's going to lose a piece here. I guess that's better than losing the king. h6 is going to be met by, if anything, h4. So here, and I'll just click back instead of backing up. So he played rook g3, and the game stays relatively even until the next turning point. Okay, so white's got a little more space still in the center. Black grabs the pawn. They're just lagging like crazy here. Okay, push the pawn. So let's see. Black now has 7 pawns. White has 6. Black's a pawn up, but white's got positional compensation here. Black's just kind of tied up. His rooks aren't doing him much. The white rooks are active. And white's got a nice rock-solid position. Now finally he plays the key move, but a little bit late. And this will lead to some weaknesses in his king position. Boy, it's just moving him so quick. Come on, man. Don't move so fast. It's this interface. That's where I'm touching it one time. Brand new mouse, wireless mouse. And it doesn't play it. And finally it plays it. It plays 2 moves. Come on. Take it. Okay. Now, I'm going to say my next move as I play it. Bishop takes a6. There, it took it pretty quick. So white gets his pawn back. And again, I still think the game is relatively even. Come on. Okay, I'm going to say the moves as I play them. Rook A7. Look at that. Finally it played it. Rook B5. A little quicker that time. Knight F5. Queen A1. Wow. Rook takes A3. Queen takes A3. Rook takes B5. Some are going quick, some aren't. Bishop takes B5. The game is still even. And black finds a terrific square for his knight. D4. Never did use the B4 square. If white didn't have this pawn on D5, he'd probably have an advantage, but it's getting in the bishop's way. Okay, let's see. Queen H or C8. And queen comes over to E3. Looks like white's got still plenty of activity for his pieces. How does he lose this in just a few moves? We will see. King F8. And King G2, Queen F5 played that pretty quick. H4. H4 was the fatal mistake because now this allows a queen trade. Now white's getting in trouble here. Boy, it's just playing two moves in a row. Come on, stop. Queen G4. Okay, now Queen G3 doesn't help. And after Queen E4 check, white's going to lose this. He picks probably the worst move. King H3, and then after Knight F5, there's too many threats on the board. Attacking this bishop, attacking the queen. White can come over here and protect his bishop and save his queen. And look at that, it's just hovering over C3. Talk about like threatening a mate, but it's black's move, and black is checking, and black is having all kinds of fun here. Watch this. Check. Okay, only move. Check. And now the king needs to come to F4. You don't want to give up your queen. Check again. We're going to put the king here. Now let's see. How can we do poor white in here? Let's see. I don't know. Knight D4 looks nice. Knight D4. We're threatening to play queen takes H3 check. The knight's on a great position. Black's just dominating here. There was really no other defense for white. Let's see. If you put the king elsewhere, like say F1, let's see. There's several ways to do this, I believe. Let's see. Well, you can always play check here and pick up this pawn. You can check here on H1, and when the queen comes back forced, you can pick up this pawn, and G5 is falling. Now suddenly it's black's game. So these pawns ended up being weak in the long run. Anyway, sometimes these are the fortunes of chess. You have an even game 1 second, and then the whole game's lost, and your opponent misses the opportunity, and it never comes back, and eventually, a game you probably could have lost, you end up winning. Happens at all levels of play. All right, thanks so much for your time. Take care.